This is Farris Khan with Michigan Football at the Voice of College Football. Today, we're going to go into a deep dive on a new methodology that I'd like to work on for this year. I'd actually like to do this as a crowdsourcing exercise with you. And what is this? Well, what I want to do is all of the predictions that we make, as well as maybe fans make, viewers make, and also other people make about Michigan football. I want to be able to come up with what I'll call a boldness index for each of these predictions. And then I want to actually start scoring them. So it's not just that we create a prediction and all predictions are equal and everybody kind of forgets about the prediction. When people make predictions, I want to take those predictions and I want to be able to score them. So I'm going to go over 14 proposed predictions. I haven't nailed down that I want to do these exactly, but at least you'll give you a flavor of what I'm trying to do. I'd also like you to give me some feedback on what are some of the predictions you have for the 2024 season for Michigan football. And then we will go ahead and kind of crowdsource it before the season starts. We'll go ahead and lock in some predictions and then we'll start scoring them. We can also do this by game. I'm very excited about this new methodology. And it's just a start here. I know we're going to kind of test and learn a little bit for the next 4 weeks or so, but then we're going to lock them in and we're going to start adding more predictions and we're going to see what other people do when it comes to Michigan football, and we're going to grade them as well. Stay tuned. All the detail next. All right, this is one of the more ambitious projects I've been doing for Smash the Numbers. If Michigan football at the Voice of College Football, Smash the Numbers. Please listen in on all of the other projects I've done, analyses that I've done, and let me know what you think about this series. This is a really detailed series, Smash the Numbers. We're also going to work on some other projects that really has to do with more of the casual fan as well. But let's first go into what I'm going to do. I'm going to share a PowerPoint with you. I'm going to go over the idea. I want to get down to 10 bold predictions, but I'm going to start off with 14, knowing that I'm going to add some, change some, delete some. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and share. And I'll just kind of move down to the corner here as we're talking. So as I said before, the goal here is to really get to a top 10 list of predictions in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Feel good about those predictions. Some of them will come from me. Some of them, I hope, will come from you. And you'll be able to kind of let me know what those predictions are. And I'll be able to kind of score them. Help me make this even better than what I have right now. So that's the idea of really kind of crowdsourcing this. Just for navigation here, that's my this is my handle on Instagram, so you can reach me there, and also TikTok. This is kind of a boldness rating, so I'm going to give a how bold each of these predictions may be. I want to emphasize here that I am not locking in any of these predictions for now. This is kind of a working list, not 100% confident in making these predictions yet, and I'm not even 100% confident with the wording. That's where I need your help with this. Okay, so I'm going to give a 1 to 10 rating on boldness, and then I'm going to show you the scoring mechanism at the end. Top 10 is my goal. Right now, I have 14. And I know that 14, I'd like that to be 20, 25, maybe even 30 predictions with your help. And then we can kind of pare those down to a top 10 list. All right, so let's go to the first prediction. So for each of these, I'm going to give you kind of a quick numbers-based reason why I think this prediction may make sense. So the first bold prediction is Michigan will be ranked outside of the top 10 to start the year. So what I'm talking about is 11th or lower. They'll be ranked number 11 or lower. Now on a boldness scale, I'm going to give this a 3 out of 10. I'm grading myself, but I really think that this is probably realistic. This is probably 50-50 chance, maybe even greater than 50-50 chance. Michigan is being picked either tied for third or number 4 in the Big Ten. And if you extrapolate that across all teams in college football, it makes sense that they would be maybe a little bit outside of the top 10. Others, I believe TJ believes that Michigan will be number 8 or something like that. So it's not a slam dunk that they'll be outside of the top 10, but it is a mildly bold prediction. So I'm only going to give it a 3 out of 10 in boldness. All right, let's go to the next one. The next one is that Michigan, Oregon, and Ohio State will all go 1-1 versus the other 2 schools. So how do I see that working? I see potentially Michigan beating Oregon at home, Oregon beating Ohio State at home, and Ohio State beating Michigan at home. So in that kind of scenario, all the home teams win. They all go 1-1 against the other 2 schools. I see that as realistic. Is it a bold prediction? Well, Michigan's going to be the underdog to Oregon. They'll also be the underdog to Ohio State. So I clearly think that is a bold prediction, but I'm not gonna say it's way out there. So I'm gonna give it also a 3 out of 10. So hopefully you're getting kind of the feel for how I'm kind of scoring these predictions. Any prediction that comes in, whether from you or that we evaluate, whether from you or maybe somebody like Joel Klatt or somebody else who's within the industry, like let's say Desmond Howard, we can go ahead and start to score the boldness of these predictions. All right, let's go to the next one. The next one is at least one unranked school will be within one score of Michigan with 5 minutes left in the game. So what I mean by that is there'll be a team that's out there that's going to make Michigan very nervous in the fourth quarter. And it's going to be an unexpected situation. I believe Michigan's going to win the game, but I'm going to give that a boldness of a 3 out of 10. It is kind of out there. Michigan should take care of business when they're ranked 10 points or higher on. I'm sorry, when they are favored by 10 points or more against other teams. But there'll be an unranked team that will get within one score of Michigan. I base this on the fact that this is historically kind of happened to Michigan. Last year they did have some trouble with Maryland. That was a one-score game, etc. Okay, let's go to the next one. Bold prediction number 4. And I'm going to put a little trademark on this because I've repeated this multiple times and I feel like I need to make a t-shirt, make a trademark, do something with this. But I believe that Alex Orji can, in fact, complete a forward pass. And I'm going to extend that a little bit and I'll say he will throw the majority of passes for Michigan. So I believe that would translate into the concept of QB1. I think one issue here is, well, what if Alex Orji gets hurt? I got to factor that in. Maybe I need to word this to kind of say, assuming this prediction goes away if he does get hurt or something to that effect. Maybe I do need to do that to sort of cover. But assuming he's healthy, he will be quarterback 1. Now, another way I need to maybe rephrase this is he may not be a clear quarterback 1 in game 1, but throughout the season, he will throw the majority of passes for Michigan. All right. I'm also giving this a boldness of only a 3 out of 10. I think most people think Alex Orgy. If you were to pick one name, it would probably be Alex Orgy. There's been a lot of Tuttle, Tuttle talk, is what I wanted to say. So we'll see. We'll see if that pans out. So there is some boldness there in making the statement, but it's because it's not a slam dunk, but it's closer to 50-50 than a way out there kind of take. All right, the next one. Michigan will win at least one of their big three games. So, and I put Washington, Oregon, OSU. That is a typo. It should be Texas, Oregon, OSU. So correct that. Please correct that when you're listening to me. So already I've got to make a change there. So what we're talking about is 3 games where Michigan will be the underdog. Clearly the 3 games that are toughest on the schedule. So Texas, not Washington, Oregon, OSU. I'm optimistic that they have a good chance against Texas, but I already told you I think they're beating Oregon, and I don't think they're beating OSU. So that's my thought, but this is gut feel. It is not a numbers based. Well, it is a little bit of numbers based analysis. I did this before in a numbers based way, so I will say actually it is numbers based analysis. Boldness of this is a 5 out of 10. All right, let's go on to the next one. The Michigan recruiting class for 2025 will be in the top 10. And in 2026, the 2026 recruiting class will be in the top 5. Now we're ratcheting up the boldness here, so I'm going from like less bold to more bold, in these predictions. So I do think that the 2025 class right now is outside of the top 10. They do need to do some work to keep the players they have in the fold. They do need to still add some players to get into the top 5. Um, Babaloa is one that's kind of top of mind here, a 5-star player. If they get him, they're going to move into the top 10. I said top 5, I meant top 10. 2026, however, with a full year's worth of the staff working, we're going to, our sites aren't going to be in the top 10. It's going to be in the top 5 for Michigan recruiting. Boldness on this, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. There are many other schools out there. You look at Notre Dame, you look at USC, where maybe academically oriented, maybe not everybody's aligned with respect to paying players and recruiting and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot that could go wrong for Michigan if you look at some of its peer institutions. That's certainly could be the case. So I am going to say that this is a pretty bold prediction. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 for this prediction. All right, let's keep going. The next bold prediction is that Michigan will be better defensively in terms of points per game allowed than they were last year. Okay, so I'm going to go out there and say this is an even more of a bold prediction. Michigan had a historically good defensive year last year, and also they have a tougher schedule this year. So for this prediction to come true, they're going to have to overcome 2 things. First, they're going to have to be better than one of the best Michigan defenses of all time, and they're going to have to overcome the fact that one cupcake on their schedule is replaced by Texas. So we'll see with respect to that prediction. Now, maybe what I should do, this is one of those things where as I'm kind of tweaking this over the next few weeks, maybe what I should do is say, understand that Michigan had a 15-game schedule and they had to play Alabama, they had to play Washington. They had a playoff there. They had the Big Ten title game against an Iowa team that was supposed to be very stingy. So, maybe it is kind of a fair comparison because, or it's an okay comparison because the regular season schedule really wasn't that hard until the last 3 games, really. Um, but this year it's going to be a lot harder. But on the other hand, last year there were some tough games in the postseason. This year, obviously, if Michigan makes it to the postseason, there'll be tough games as well. So, you can argue this both ways, but I'm going to go ahead and say proposed. This is a proposal. Michigan will be better defensively in terms of points per game allowed than last year. All right. Next one is that there will be a logjam at the top of the Big Ten. At least 5 teams will have a shot at getting to the title game at the beginning of the last week of the season. So as we go into that last week, 5 teams will have a shot. Who are those 5 teams? It might be Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon. Okay, those are 3 right there. Then you have Penn State. And then I'm going to throw in a wild card, at least what I'm thinking based on their schedule, and that's Rutgers. Rutgers avoids all of the teams I just described or just mentioned. So they basically avoid the number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4 team in the Big Ten, at least the way we're thinking of it right at the moment. So that cupcake schedule should allow them to get to maybe 2 losses by the end of the year. Yeah, it's out there in front of them if they want it. If Rutgers can get there, but if they can, 2 losses going into the last week gives them a shot at getting to the Big Ten title game. So there's my 5 right there. USC could be the 5th. Washington could be the 5th as well. All right, let's go to the next one. At least one 3-loss team will get into the college football playoffs from either the Big Ten or the SEC. So what I'm saying there is somebody's going to sneak in with 3 losses. Now, I think the most likely scenario is if there's a team, let's say it's Michigan. I think Michigan's probably a really good example. So if Michigan can get into the Big Ten title game, but they lose that game. So let's say they lost to Texas. That's 1 loss. Then they lost to Ohio State. That's 2 losses. They beat Oregon. So now they have 2 losses at the end of the year. They ran the table with all the other games. Now we're talking about playing in the Big Ten title game. Let's say they have to play Oregon or Ohio State and they lose that game. In that, in the scenario I gave out, it would probably be Ohio State, and they'd lose to them 2 times in a row. That would be very sad if that happened. But they would probably get into the playoffs if that happened, because they would have beaten Oregon. They would have 3 losses, but 2 losses to the same team back to back. I think to Ohio State back to back. Let's say Ohio State's running the table; they're number 1. It would make sense that Michigan would be able to kind of sneak in. Now, there are other scenarios for other teams, so I'm not predicting Michigan specifically that this is going to happen to them, but I'm just kind of pointing out an example of how that would work. A 3-loss team will get to the playoffs. All right. Now, another bold prediction, kind of related a little bit, but at least one 3rd-place team in the Big Ten or the SEC will be ranked in the top 8 and will get both a bye and a home playoff game. Now, what do I mean by this? So this is kind of an interesting kind of scenario. So, let's say Michigan, Ohio State, and Oregon are all in the top 8 at the end of the year. They all beat each other, so they're 1-1 against the other 2. 2 of those 3 teams, let's say Ohio State and Oregon, make it to the Big Ten title game. All right. Michigan is sitting there. Let's say they're sitting there at number 7. All right. So they're sitting there at number 7. Oregon's in the top 5 for sure. Ohio State's number 1 or number 2. They've run the table, let's say. Okay. So now we have a Michigan at number 7. All right. We have Michigan at number 7. They get pay really close attention here. They get a bye. How do they get a bye? Because they do not have to play in the Big Ten title game. That's a bye. They're avoiding a very tough game, the Big Ten title game, and they get to go straight into the playoffs. Ohio State and Oregon have to play another game in order to get a bye. The loser of the game, yeah, they'll get to the playoffs and they'll likely get a home game, but they had to play an extra game. The winner of that game had to play the extra game as well. So either way, it's a wash. Well, if you're the number one team and you won the Big Ten title, you do get that bye. Okay, I get that, but you have to play an extra game to get to the bye, so that's kind of break even. If you're the number two team, you lost the Big Ten title game, you have to play an extra game, and now you still have to play that other extra playoff game as well. If you're the number three team, you get a bye because you don't have to play the Big Ten title game. And now, if you're in, like, let's say you're in the top eight, I kind of gave this scenario that Michigan's number seven, sitting there with maybe one or two losses at number seven against top five teams in the Big Ten. All right, so now they get to get a home game in Michigan Stadium, and they get the bye because they didn't have to play in the Big Ten title game. All right, just let that sink in. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, leave a comment. But hopefully you're following my line of logic. The number three team in the Big Ten might actually have a better path in the playoffs than number one or number two. All right, let's go on to the next one. Bold prediction number 11. Michigan will end up ranked number 7 or better going into the playoffs. So I told you way back in the beginning of these predictions that, I thought that Michigan will probably be outside of the top 10, so number 11 or below. So they have some work to do to kind of climb up the rankings, and it's very likely that they're going to lose. At least in my scenario, they're probably going to lose 2 games. Okay, so if they lose 2 games, it's going to be really tough to get to be ranked number 7. That's why I gave this a boldness of a 7 out of 10. Let me actually go backwards a couple of these so that we know all of the ones that we're saying are boldness of 7 out of 10. So we're saying prediction number 7 is 7 out of 10. I didn't really capture that. Better team defensively. Prediction number 8, logjam. That's a 7 out of 10 boldness. The at least one 3-loss team will get to the playoffs, 7 out of 10. At least one third-place team will be ranked in the top 8. That's a 7 out of 10. And then also Michigan will be ranked number 7 or better, also a 7 out of 10. So all of these, I kind of gave the same boldness rating. I'm going to try to tweak that a little bit. So part of this is, if there were odds for this, what would those odds be? Are they long shot odds or are they close to, how close to are we talking about to 50-50 versus 90 or 10% chance versus 90% chance versus 50-50, right? So for now, I'm calling all of those kind of 7 out of 10s. All right, let's get even bolder here. This is a 9 out of 10 boldness. So prediction number 12, at least one player will be invited to New York City as a Heisman finalist. Okay, who's that player going to be? If I were to pick one, it would probably be Will Johnson. So we'll see what ends up happening. Maybe Donovan Edwards would be another one. So maybe one of those two. Let's see how the season plays out. I am looking to see if one of those two can maybe be invited to New York City. Will Will Johnson play a little offense? Possible. Maybe there's some dramatic play or two. Maybe there's a little package for him. Will Donovan Edwards break out and be not only a home run hitter, but a 300 hitter that's also a home run hitter? If he's a 300 hitter that's also a home run hitter and he's made that leap, then I think he has an excellent chance of getting to New York City as a Heisman finalist. Now, I say all of this, but Michigan probably in this scenario, yeah, the boldness rating is much higher. Probably in this scenario, they need to probably only have one loss, or if it's two losses, they need to win the Big Ten. I'll just put it that way. There has to be some dramatic moments. Um, Prefer one loss or zero losses, maybe two losses. They might be able to do it if let's say in a scenario that they have a rematch with Ohio State in that second game, they blow them away or something like that, and Donovan Edwards is super deluxe awesome. Okay, that's probably the scenario. All right. Prediction number 13, Michigan will lose to OSU, but they will go further in the playoffs to OSU than OSU. Also giving this a boldness rating of a 9 out of 10. I think it's really possible that this, uh, you know, well, there's two parts to this, right? So Michigan will lose to OSU. Okay, that is the probability of that is high. Yeah, probably 60. By according to the odds, over 60%, maybe 65% chance that OSU is going to beat Michigan. But going further in the playoffs than OSU, especially if OSU has that bye that I kind of went over before, let's say they do have that bye, but they have played the extra game for the bye, but they have the bye. In the playoffs, they already kind of move up around. Okay, so then they've moved up and around. Can Michigan, let's say, get to the Final Four? Ohio State stalls out in that, Elite Eight kind of. I guess I'm just going to use basketball terminology here. OSU loses in the Elite Eight. Michigan makes it to the Final Four. That's the kind of thing I'd be looking for. Boldness of a 9 out of 10 on that one. All right, my final proposed prediction. Again, all of these are proposals. I'm kind of working through this. Would love to kind of crowdsource this with you, come up with a way to make some of my predictions better, and or try to see if there's a prediction that's out there that I've not even thought about that you think might be better, or is worthy of this list, so to speak. Okay, prediction number 14, Michigan will make it to the Final Four of college football. So I just mentioned that Final Four. I'm going to use the basketball terminology. Michigan will make it to the Final Four. I'm going to give that a boldness rating of a 9 out of 10. I'm not going to say they're going to win the title. That's a 10 out of 10. But I think there's a realistic chance they could make it to the Final Four, and that would be an amazing season. If they make it to the playoffs, I'd be happy. If they make it to the Final Four, I'd be thrilled. If they make it to the Final Four and OSU doesn't, makes me even happier. That's whipped cream, nuts, and a cherry on top. Now, once you're in the Final Four, maybe, Michigan's going to be a dangerous team. I think one thing to think about for Michigan is most teams will not have prepared for Michigan, unless there's a rematch with Oregon or Ohio State. Most teams are not going to be used to the way that Michigan plays football. Michigan knows how to play defense against other teams. Other teams don't know how to handle Michigan's offense. So, I think that's where Michigan's going to be a very dangerous team in the playoffs. That's where I'm sort of talking myself into this Final Four thing. Again, it's proposed. You let me know what you think. All right. Now, I already kind of hinted at I kind of mentioned a couple times predicting. You helped me make prediction number 15, 16, 17, all the way to 20 or 25. Please, you make it. You give it to me. We have a couple opportunities this week. First, you can leave a comment here. You can also, on our Tuesday show, leave a comment there. If you are a member, we have a member hangout on Wednesday. Would love to get your feedback there. And then we also have the Thursday call-in show. So you basically have an opportunity Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Wednesday, if you are a member. And why wouldn't you want to be a member? Please be a member. You have 4 chances to give feedback. We're going to make this system better from a crowdsourced perspective. Now, I've got one more slide to show. I'm going to kind of change the orientation here if I can. Maybe I can't. So anyway, I'll just kind of explain this at a high level. Um, all right, I was able to pause it. And it did work. So here's what we've got. Looks a little busy here, but anyway, you get the point. Here's my spreadsheet. I did the boldness. What I'm doing is I've got points if these predictions are true. So as you're kind of looking at this, if you could maybe just take a screenshot of this page on your laptop or on your TV, whatever, just pause it. If you're on your phone, you may need to zoom a little, but hopefully you'll get the point. And here are all of the predictions. Here's my boldness rating, exactly what I talked about before. Now, my system is basically I'm giving points if these predictions are true, then that equals the boldness rating. So that's all that this is. It's kind of repeat. These two are the same. And then on the last column, I'm giving a deduction if the prediction is not true. So when I do that, and I'm going to play around with the deductions on most of these, what we're talking about is the boldness um, plus the deduction should add up to 11 or 12 points. Maybe I'll make it a consistent 12. Um, and what that's doing is it's basically saying, okay, be bold and make predictions. Okay, that's fine, but there's got to be some level of risk associated. You can't just make a whole bunch of crazy predictions, and if 1 out of 5 come true, your prognostication is uh, you only focus on that one and say that, hey, I did the right prediction here while ignoring the other 4 that you got wrong. I don't think that's the right way to do it. I think the better way is put all the predictions out there, score each one of them, give points if it's true, deductions if it's not true. And then when we settle on a kind of a top 10, if you kind of look at it, there's a boldness factor, um, and the points if true, and the deductions if not true, points if true based on the boldness. On average, so these bottom numbers that you see here are kind of on average 6.1 and 5.5. I'd like them to be pretty close to 0. So in other words, I want to have a mix of some moderate boldness predictions, but then also some high boldness predictions. Not too many that are on the high side, not too many that are on not too bold side, and have kind of the points versus the deductions kind of be around 0. Like I said, I basically made up this number for the deductions. I'm gonna tweak it a little bit, but for now, on most of these, what we're talking about is you take the points, you take the deduction, um, and you add those together, it would add up to 12. So the deduction basically literally means if you make a not so far out there prediction and it doesn't come true, you get 3 points if it comes true, you get minus 8 points if it doesn't come true. So you know uh, uh, you should be rewarded for not having takes that are out there and they come true. That's what I'm basically saying. Now on the ones that are more bold, you'll get more points if it comes true, and your deduction is kind of less if it doesn't come true because it's such a bold prediction. So that's my scoring mechanism for now. You let me know if you would kind of tweak this. I'd really appreciate some feedback with respect to this. We've got 4 weeks. In these 4 weeks, we're going to lock in approximately 10 predictions. I think we could probably get exactly 10. That's our goal. And then in addition to that, what I'd like to do is I'd like to see if we can make predictions, maybe 2 or 3 predictions by game together, and then we can score this throughout the year. If we hear something from somebody that's out there that's kind of at the national level that's making predictions, we can go ahead and include that separate from this list of top 10, or right now 14, but eventually top 10. and we can score those as well. So that is my goal. We can have kind of like the average score per prediction, and use that as a metric to kind of see, okay, who is making really good predictions and who's not. I'm using my own data. And a lot of these are emotional, not necessarily based on numbers yet. Others are based on numbers, but really the idea here is to kind of think about the entire framework. All right, there you have it. Let me know what you think about my methodology. If you have any comments about any of the 14 predictions that I proposed, please let me know about that. Please stay tuned throughout the week. The show is going to launch on Monday morning. We have the Tuesday, our regular Tuesday show. We have the Wednesday member hangout. More than 50 people are invited to that, or approximately 50. I think it's actually more than 50. If you become a member by Wednesday, you can be part of that. On Thursday, we have our regular call-in show. Any of those times, opportunity to kind of uh, bring up some of these ideas with respect to smash the numbers. Um, we will get to your, if you are a super chat, if you give a super chat, or if you are a member, we will get to your questions both on Tuesday as well as on Thursday. Have a great week and go blue. And I hope to talk to you again in a week with another Smash the Numbers.